Welcome back to another YouTube video for you. If you run a high ticket offer, whether you're a coach, consultant, agency, online service-based business, whatever, who is struggling to increase their LTV and is noticing that it's below $10,000 on average, this video is for you, because in this video, I'm going to show you the exact two-step ascension ladder that industry authorities are using to take any offer and 10x the LTV and make over $30,000 per customer. For instance, like you see these guys below, Hormozi with the gym launch, average LTV over 30,000. Jeremy Minor over 28,000. Joel Kaplan over 25,000. Taylor Welch, traffic and funnels and wealthy consultant, well over 20,000 consistently per every customer on average. And all four of these guys that you see here below have done hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars with just info alone. Joel Kaplan, for instance, who I've paid over $26,000 myself, so been one of his high LTV clients, got to learn from him one-on-one. Same with Jeremy Minor, and I was actually able to work on his sales team. So it's not just things that I'm observing, but things that I've actually been able to be a part of. So I feel like I have a pretty good idea on how to actually explain how this works. And on top of that, we've been able to implement this for multiple of our clients as well, who have hit the six-figure per month mark threshold. So if you want to learn how to do the same for your business and be able to implement similar strategies, you're going to want to keep watching this video. So first things first, before we go into the specific strategies that actually can help you scale your LTV, first we have to understand what the existing strategies are that are potentially keeping you from scaling it altogether. So couple main problems that most people have. Number one is so many people in the info space, they sell one-time lifetime access programs. They sell people on a 5K program and you have access to whether it's just the course forever, the coaching calls forever, everything forever, basically cutting off all opportunities of ever being able to upsell. And because of that, only relying on new cash every single month. On top of that, you have unorganized group coaching calls. You're showing up 5-10 minutes late. You're getting on the call. It's just like, hey, what questions do you guys have? And people stop showing up because of that, because you're not providing value. And in a lot of cases, agencies do this very, very well for the most part, but a lot of coaching businesses, they don't even hardly have an onboarding process. It's just, hey, you're in, now you're in the Discord, now you're in the WAP community, here's the coaching call calendar, best of luck. And maybe they have one onboarding call, but they have no weekly to bi-weekly check-ins to actually make sure people are successful and actually make sure you can upsell them. So there's a little hint there. But on top of that, that leads to lack of support, which means bad results from your clients in comparison to what they could be getting if you are holding them accountable on weekly check-in calls with a CSM that obviously is an investment, but is going to make you a lot more money. Now, next thing as well is pushing payment plans without having access to financing options. Chances are you're still trying to use, normal processors like WAP that only have Klarna and only have Affirm. And I love WAP. I love WAP. I love fan bases. They're great. But there are other platforms you could be using that could be allowing you to collect a lot more cash. Maybe you just don't know about yet, but that's okay. Now, on top of that, you just don't have any cross sells, no upsells, no renewals. Even if you do have, a 3-month program instead of a lifetime access and you're a little bit smarter than most, you probably don't really have any strategy on what to actually do after that, what to cross-sell, how to actually get people to renew consistently, and even just anything altogether. You're not upselling anything, and so your average LTV is, whatever the 50% cash collected you collect up front of what your actual program costs. And because of this, most high-ticket businesses, they get burnt out after a few short years. They have to only rely on new cash and new customers every single month. A lot of them run out of money, and it's a sad thing to say, but it happens when you only rely on new cash every single month. And especially those who only rely on organic, although it's evergreen, you can never predict the actual traffic. 1 month you could be doing 500K a month, a year and a half later you could only be doing 50 to 100. That's a bit of a drop, and that's what happens when you don't have an actual ascension ladder to continue to upsell the existing people within your audience that have already bought from you, because those are the easiest people to sell. So let me go through and show you how that works now that we know to avoid this at all costs. Now, I want to have a disclaimer here. This only works if you have an offer that is actually good. If you are selling people air, like some people who we're not going to name, but if you are literally selling people into a program and just trying to mindset coach them for 3 months and just telling them a bunch of BS they already know, it's probably not going to work. You're probably not going to upsell anything. And if you're someone who doesn't have real credibility, you're selling, an Amazon business and you only make 10K a month profit yourself, you're probably not going to have that much success or longevity with these strategies. Just keeping it real. But if you're someone with a good product and actually has credibility, this video is going to be useful for you. So let's get on into it again. So there's 2 main steps, like we mentioned earlier, to actually maximize your LTV without even having to change your offer. We're not talking about offer in this video. That's going to be in a separate video. But number 1 is your actual product ladder. Have more cool stuff and better stuff to sell people along the line. Now, number 2 is make people more successful so that they could actually rationalize buying more stuff from you. Simple stuff. Now, let's actually go into what this looks like. So step one is your product ladder. You want to be able to sell something at each level of client progression. What I mean by that is, let's say you're selling a biz op. That's going to be the example that I use. Let's say you're teaching someone how to start a social media marketing agency from scratch. Let's say on the front end, if you're running ads, you initially sell them something like an SLO, a self-liquidating offer, which is just like a $7 how I build my 10K a month agency. Then you upsell them on an implementation call. But with the SLO, you're basically liquidating your ad spend, so you have 100% margins on the high ticket. That's something that's optional, and I have a whole separate video on that. But let's just focus on your front end high ticket offer. So instead of doing lifetime access, $5,000 for 12 weeks, right? Plus renewals, to where it's 12 weeks, which is equivalent to 3 months, which is basically your mass market high ticket offer. This is the front end offer that you are selling everyone and pitching everyone that is a new customer on the front end that hasn't bought anything except for the low ticket. Now this is gonna be simple: coaching, community, and whatever course material you have and whatever other bonuses and stuff you have as well. Now with this, after you're gonna have renewals, but another thing is making sure you have the right financing options. Affirm and Klarna are great, but they're only gonna get you so far. So being able to implement elective if you're above $500,000 a month, My Abundant if you have good credibility, and client financing, which both of those last two have 100% approvals on certain terms, meaning you collect at least 80% of cash up front every single time, meaning you get more people in the door. So automatically already jumping up your average LTV just because you're collecting more cash on the front end. Now, next thing is what happens after the 12 weeks. Instead of your traditional lifetime access, like we mentioned, where you just go on and on and on, and I know what you're thinking, well, if I don't sell lifetime access and I shorten my program, isn't my close rate gonna drop? Well, no, it's not, because the strategies we show you are gonna show you how to get actually better results from clients with the 3-week program and the 12-week program, like I mentioned, instead of the lifetime access, which is gonna mean you sell more people. And to be honest, it doesn't really make that much of a difference because they're getting the same value anyways. In fact, they're getting a lot more value with the 3 months versus the traditional lifetime. I figured I'd get that out of the way first. So you're gonna wanna renew. Let's say you have a 5K program for either $497 a month or a $4,500 year-long paid in full. Now you wanna incentivize the paid in full. Otherwise, of course, they're gonna go for the low option, and you're always going to pitch the paid in full first versus the typical renewal. And the sales rep, once they sell it, they're going to be hinting this so that it doesn't just come out of nowhere first for the initial sales call, of course. But the $4,500 gets you basically initial bonuses, for instance. Either it's a one-on-one call, you get a free live event, whatever it is, to incentivize someone paying in full versus going the month to month is going to be massive. And so that automatically, at the end of your 3 months, you're gonna expect around 60% of people to renew either on a paid in full or a month to month basis. Now next is live events, which we just briefly talked about. But another thing that you could upsell, cross-sell to people, and you're gonna want to be promoting this within your community. And this is something you can even sell to people on the front end who haven't bought your program before. I would recommend making this accessible to the masses as well, especially quarterly when you're selling people your regular high ticket as a little bit of an add-on and an upsell within your initial sale, which is basically in-person live events, which is great for the networking and everything, but also builds massive trust. You film so many testimonials, you get banger sales assets from this. And then people, they feel a lot more in tune into the process because they met you in person. They met a bunch of clients in person. And so they start upselling like hotcakes after these events. And so your LTV already there is skyrocketing just from renewals and just from live events altogether. Now, renewals alone, you're gonna easily get to 100, 200K a month cash if you have the right offer and you have the right traffic and you actually know how to fulfill. But it gets even better once you have signed at least, or have at least 50 active clients. You don't want to implement the inner circle until there's a demand for it. Because imagine you have 10 active clients, they're all hopping on the same calls, and you're like, hey guys, I have a secret, more like inner circle program. They're gonna be like, dude, well, there's only 10 of us. Why would we pay you 15K, 3 times the price for something more? So don't do that until it starts to fill up and people are starting to see you less and less and less, and to where it's more of a demand for people to actually get more attention from you. And this is specifically if you're a coach or consultant. So for agencies, this is going to be a little bit different, but the narrative of it is going to be 2 to 3 times the price of your original program for a year-long time. You can do as short as 8 months, as short as 6 months, but usually a year is about your sweet spot. But also have renewals on this. Now, we're not going to cover renewals, but it's going to be the same psychology. You could renew for, either $997 a month, or you could renew for, a discounted pay in full with bonuses. Now, you're going to want to have obviously a lot more intimate group with more hands-on support to where they could book calls with you, obviously either paid or, depending on how generous you want to be. And they could also book calls with other coaches, but they also have access to more exclusive masterminds as well. And so when you host those in-person masterminds, you're gonna have the option to upsell people to Inner Circle so that they can get access to the last 2 days which is only for the inner circle people, which is going to be very, very valuable for you. Now, next thing, I know you're getting a sneak peek already. You might be already seeing it down here, but software, right? Software is going to be one of the biggest things. Look at Alex Becker with Hyros. I don't know how much that software is worth, but it is absolutely printing. And so for being able to either develop a software or affiliate an existing one, for instance, Joel Kaplan, back about a year and a half ago, the last time I spoke to him, was making over $100,000 a month with Go High Level Affiliate alone, which for most of these softwares, they have very, very long payback times from their paid ads. So being able to affiliate it to a lot of your clients, if someone has an existing one that's already crushing it in your market, they're probably going to give you like 30 to 40 to sometimes even 50% commissions, depending on the softwares you're able to actually show people, right? Especially CRMs, those are going to be huge. I know Shopify, if you're in e-com, they have some bonuses as well that I'm not too familiar with. But being able to actually affiliate stuff like this is going to basically increase your LTV, whether people are working with you or not. Now, on top of that, being able to develop an existing software yourself, which actually starts to give your business enterprise value rather than just being a name brand coaching business, right? Something you could actually sell in the future, which not only does increase LTV, but it gives you a lot more leverage in the long run. Now, last thing here is going to be done for you services. Now, this is very, very huge for agencies, but also huge for people who are in a biz op niche, right? So if that's e-com, that's a done for you store. That's a, we run it for you kind of thing. If that's, a marketing agency niche, so where you're selling people on how to build an SMMA, it's literally running your ads for you, placing talent for you. If you sell people on sales training, that's, hey, we're gonna hire you a VA that's gonna be able to do all XYZ for you and manage your pipeline. There's so many different things that you could do. But the key with this is because you've already sold so many things, you're automatically an authority and you're already premium. So you can justify charging higher prices than most people outside of your ecosystem would. And on top of that, because they've already bought so many things from you, what you could do is actually start charging a rev share on a performance basis. Now, I only recommend doing this if you could track it. Like for me, for instance, I used to run a solar agency. These guys didn't get paid for 30 to sometimes 90 days. I'm not gonna charge rev share because I can't track it. But if you're selling to people with online businesses who, for instance, they have Stripe accounts, they have a Fanbases account, a Squarespace account, whatever it is, you could track revenue, you could take a rev share. Therefore, you get compensated on performance, which if you are an agency, then that's going to provide you a lot more leverage. And if you are a coaching business, being able to implement agency services creates a lot of monthly recurring revenue on top of just new cash every single month, including softwares, including renewals, including upsells. You can make so much more money by also making your clients be so much more successful. But you see all these products, you see all these things to where you could make upwards of $90,000, $100,000 per client over the span of a couple of years versus the traditional, $4,000 to $5,000. But how do we actually make sure these clients become successful so that it makes sense for them to ascend and actually upsell? And that is exactly what the next part of this video is about. Now, step number 2 is guided client success. Now, you're going to want to do this yourself if you're under around 40K a month and you're not signing on a consistent amount of clients every month. But if you are over 40K a month, invest into a good CSM. It is going to yield you dividends. And although it does seem expensive on the front end, it's worth every penny. So you're looking at $5,000 a month for your average CRM plus bonuses, whether that's commission or incentives for actually helping people get upsold to where they're going to handle all of the onboarding, filming of testimonials for you, client success, and basically navigating all upsell timelines and that process, and also coordinating with the sales team when they're ready to be upsold, what progress they're making, and also making sure that they are making progress. Now, initially, you're gonna have your onboarding call once they get signed on, setting expectations once again and giving a clear plan of exactly what this client does and needs to do to become successful based off the data of other clients in the past, but also seed the idea of a potential future ascension into one of your more higher ticket programs, services, renewals, upsells, whatever it ends up being once they start making more progress. Now, we don't want to just upsell them. If let's say you sign them on a biz op niche and they're making $0 and a month later they're making 1K a month, we're not going to sell them a damn inner circle. We're going to try to make them as much money as possible so that they can afford more services and also give you more testimonials. So you end up signing in on a lot more clients and ascending a lot more people altogether, which seemingly makes sense. But month number 2, initial entry. Now, or month number 1 to start off, usually 2 to 4 check-in calls a month, depending on the volume in which you're running at. Now, you want to be able to hold this client accountable, but give them very actionable steps on top of just the coaching calls to make sure they succeed. And I need you to do whatever it takes to make sure these people succeed. If you want to make as much money on your upsells as possible, if you have to give them extra one-on-ones with your CSM, if you have to take a little bit extra care of them, whatever it takes to make sure you have the best product possible. And month number 2 is gonna be very, very similar, making sure you're having client accountability to an all-time high and making sure they are progressing while continuing to give them actionable steps, getting a temp check, making sure they're liking the program, which you're doing pretty much every single month. But once again, doing whatever it takes as a CSM to make sure they succeed so that they can actually upsell, make sure they're implementing things properly. And we're doing this because so many people get thrown into programs to where there's barely any onboarding process. Maybe there's one call, maybe they meet with a CSM once a month, which isn't enough to get real data on what's actually working for them, but also actually being able to implement things with them one-on-one, because when they have someone one-on-one holding them accountable, they feel and set themselves to a lot higher standard versus if it's just like, hey, here's the program, hop on these calls if you want, don't if you don't want to, and best of luck. So make sure you're holding your clients accountable. Now, month number 3, you've been pretty much this whole time each month, jokingly, playfully kind of seeding in, hey, there's gonna be an upsell. And at this point, ideally, we want these people to have made enough progress, but also enough money to be able to return on their investment on what they made before, but also have profited a lot to the point where you're being able to film testimonials with them, you're still giving them actionable steps, but over that 90 days, they have progressed so much to where they're like, dang, these guys actually did a lot for me, and they're very, very happy with your service because you gave them actual actionable steps versus just a typical course that all they get is a course and just occasional group coaching calls. But you gave them actionable steps, you're getting a testimonial if you haven't already, temp check, and then the CSM is basically gonna be kind of hinting that, hey, there's an option for an upsell. Your CSM can be the one to upsell them, or they could just have the sales team, the same sales rep, call and be like, hey man, I see the progress you've made, and then have that conversation from there. The whole goal through these entire 90 days is getting this client as successful as possible so they can upsell, but also feeding back data to the sales team on what's working, how they're responding, how they are feeling to the idea of a potential upsell, everything all together, so that we have so much data that when we call them to upsell and that when it's time to upsell, we know exactly what to sell them on because we know exactly what they've had success with, but also what they need the most help with, meaning that we have exactly what they need and are able to create exactly what they need over 90 days with the end goal to get clients way more support, meaning they make more progress, meaning they upsell way more, and you have more testimonials to sell more new clients, making your business way better. And so to give you a case of implementation here, let's say you're before this, you don't have any BNPL, you have none of the stuff I just showed you. Say you're making maybe 50 grand a month, you implement financing, boom, you jump up to 80. But once you actually implement a lot of this ascension process, let's say you're cash collecting 80 grand 1 month, 80 grand every month is your new cash collected, let's say 80K, 80K, and then boom, month 3 hits, now you have upsells, now you have an extra 36K, which is based off 50% of people upselling, and then the next month is based off 65% of people renewing, which is pretty basic statistics. So we're now month 4, it's compounding with upsells, monthly recurring revenue, and renewals all together every single month after the 3rd month that you implement the strategy. Even though you're only doing 80K a month in new cash, you're continuing to compound, and now you've basically almost doubled your revenue. And the whole goal here, and with this specifically, after 3 months of implementation, upsells, monthly recurring revenue, and then renewals, right? And this is just with renewals in the inner circle alone. This isn't including software. This isn't including done-for-you services. This isn't including any of that. And this is literally what your favorite gurus do. This is how Hormozi used to do with Gym Launch before he sold it for 40 M's with his Prestige Lads company. So Joel Kaplan did to have well over $26,000 in LTV. And as you'd see here, I used to be at Agency Lab and I bought a lot from Joel, and I saw them use this process live. I bought a lot from Jeremy as well, and I used to personally be on their sales team, so I've seen how this stuff works with 8-figure companies, and this is exactly how your favorite gurus do it, and this is exactly the strategy you can implement to blow up your business as well, so it doesn't go under after a few years of only relying on new cash every single month. So if you want your business to last, you should probably implement some of these strategies. Now, everything you need here, and I want to make sure this is in order because some people might get it twisted because there's a lot of stuff here. Now, first things first, low ticket, this is optional. There's going to be a separate video on this that's going to be linked within this Gamma doc and also in the description of this video on how to actually set up a proper low ticket ascension funnel. You could just do a high ticket call funnel as well. That works fine. But have your high ticket call funnel immediately change from, whatever kind of program you're running, lifetime access, just a 3-month, to having a 3-month, a 12-week with renewals. You can do sometimes upwards of 6 months, depends on how you want to float your boat, but it depends, right? Now, next is done-for-you services and software affiliates, which you're going to want to implement. You can even start building a software sooner. It doesn't matter, but this is stuff that you can implement in the beginning when you're only signing on, maybe a couple clients a month, maybe you only have 10 active clients. And then you could start doing in-person events as well once you have at least 30 clients active. The last thing you want to do is, have 10 clients active, do an in-person event, only 3 make it. And you're just having dinner with, a couple clients that you don't know that well, but now they're homies. And so now, they're probably never going to upsell into anything because they already are basically getting one-on-one access to you for almost free, which is like $1,500. So don't do that until you have at least 30 active clients, where you get at least, 10, 15 people to show up. And once you have at least 50 plus active clients, when the demand is there to have more attention from you and your team and your coaches, because there's so many people in the program, then you open up the inner circle, but not until there is a demand for it. Now, with a client success manager, like I mentioned, only bring one on when you're signing over 10 clients a month, and specifically over $40,000 a month. Now, usually $5,000 salary plus bonuses. You can kind of flip that on its head to where it's a lower salary, higher bonuses and commission. Depends on what you want to do. As long as you could attract good talent, which obviously you want to make sure you pay your CSM very, very well, because they're the ones that are making sure your clients are successful. So make sure you pay them well, and usually they could end up just being one of your successful clients anyways, which usually end up making some of the best CSMs, or a sales rep that you have that wants to step into more of a CS type of position. But do this all yourself before, so you know what works versus just bringing on a CSM and not yet knowing what works. Now, I've pretty much given you the entire process here. All you have to do to make this work is not screw this up, right? All you have to do is set up a couple extra things, making sure that you have your proper ascension ladder, you have maybe done for you services set up, you have software affiliates, and you just have renewals. Simple stuff. And I know I make it sound simple, maybe it's a lot more complicated than it is, but it's just what I'm used to seeing within good info businesses. But yeah, go back through this video. You're gonna get access to this exact Gamma doc here, and all of the resources within this Gamma doc as well, plus a couple other bonuses down below, linked to some of my other videos. And so hopefully you make something out of this. Hopefully this blows up your business. And if it does, cool. Throw me a testimonial, that would be sick. And look forward to seeing you in the next video. Peace.